Welcome back to Filmonomics is Slated. I'm Steph Paterno, and you are probably on your way to Sundance as you watch this video. Now, this has been an exciting year. There are over 4,100 films that were submitted to Sundance, of which 124 got in, and it's estimated that of those 124, probably 80% of them will get distribution deals. Now, granted, the majority of those distribution deals may be VOD, but that's okay. VOD is exploding. There's a lot more distributors out there looking to acquire. So recently, as of just this week, Amazon just announced that they're going to start producing 12 films per year. Now, that's a pretty significant amount of films and certainly a huge increase over prior years, but more impressive than that, between Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu, they're spending $6.8 billion on acquiring and developing, producing content this year, which is another huge jump up from over the last few years. So there are more buyers out there, better capitalized, spending more money on VOD distribution. And VOD, of course, now is the way to go and get a global release very rapidly. Now, it's interesting because if you go back to the beginnings of Sundance, it used to be the VHS buyers coming and making all the waves. So the platforms and the technologies have evolved and changed. Probably the streaming platforms will have much greater longevity than a physical medium like VHS. But everyone is out in force looking for the best content possible, and it appears only to be growing. So I think the signs are very positive for independent cinema as a whole. Now, another interesting statistic, about 45 of the filmmakers behind the films at Sundance were first-time or are first-time film directors. So that means there's a lot of money taking risk on new talent. And there's a lot of buyers out there who are going to be looking to buy films from new talent. So the veterans still have a way to get their films out there, but the first-timers also have very good prospects. And I think it's also important for us to remember, even though only about 2% of the films that got submitted to Sundance are going to get picked up, there's a lot of films that will be premiering at one of the other many festivals and markets and getting sold as well. So it's not just about those 2%, there's at least a couple other percent, if not more, waiting to be bought and still recoup their investment. Now, let me briefly mention a few stats I'm personally proud of. Of the 124 films that are at Sundance this year, 69 of them, or 56% of the films at Sundance, are from Slated members, which is just absolutely incredible. Slated is a great representation of what's happening in the market. We have 145 members that have films at Sundance this year, and 13 of those members have multiple films at Sundance this year. And by the way, they have an average score of 12, which goes to show that you don't need a high score in order to have a top quality film in the market. Now, another interesting stat that I'm very proud of is that 6 of our slated films are showing at Sundance this year, 2 of which are in competition. So again, we have a lot of great films showing. I hope you turn out to see them. Let's also now zoom in a little bit closer on those 6 particular films and hear a little bit more about them. I'll See You in My Dreams, with Slated members Brett Haley, the writer, director, and producer, Rebecca Green, producer, Jan Miller-Corin, executive producer. Soul Searching, with Slated members Benson Lee, writer, director, producer, Andrea Chung, producer, Daniel Katz, cinematographer, and Henry Shaw, executive producer. Songs My Brother Taught Me, with Slated members Molly Asher, producer and UPM, Nina Yang Bon Jovi, producer, Angela C. Lee, producer. Entertainment, with Slated members Rick Alverson, director and co-writer, Ryan Loff, producer, Don Krantz, exec producer, and Sigda Miguel, casting. The Royal Road, with Slated members Jenny Olson, writer, director, and narrator, Paul Marcarelli, executive producer, Sophie Constantinou, cinematographer, Paul Lee, associate producer, and Michael Ahrensweig, co-producer. Chuck Norris versus Communism, with Slated members Mara Adina, producer, John Batzik, exec producer, and Dan Kogan, exec producer. Now, I'm personally super excited to see the diversity of films that are going to be shown at Sundance. I have no idea yet which ones are going to get all the buzz, and undoubtedly there will be bidding wars early on for the hottest contenders. But it'll be just as interesting to see who the buyers are. and whether some of these newer VOD dollars are the ones doing all the buying, and if maybe this season turns out to be an even bigger buyer's market than the prior year. But one word of caution, when you're hearing all this buzz, remember, Sundance is an echo chamber, and it's buyers and sellers, each with their own agendas, inadvertently telling the world and the market which films they're excited about, which doesn't necessarily translate to what consumers in the theaters and in front of their computers or in front of their TVs are ultimately going to want to watch. So take the buzz with a grain of salt, and we want to keep making it our mission at Slated to help you as a producer understand what the real consumer potential is for your film, and not simply what one distributor in one given market with one particular agenda would be willing to pay in minimum guarantees for your film. You know, what they might be willing to put down as money doesn't necessarily represent the full upside potential of if you brought your own film to market. So, on that note, enjoy the festival. We will be back next week as usual. Don't forget to subscribe on our channel, or like us on Facebook, or any one of the other social media outlets that we put this video on. Until then, have a good week.